Imagine a story passed down through generations in your own family, a sudden, unexplained disappearance. A relative just gone, without a trace, leaving this void that kind of ripples through the decades. Now imagine trying to find answers, trying to dig up the truth using the most powerful information tools we have today, tools that promise to sift through mountains of data in just seconds, connecting all these dots. But instead, you're met with, well, a digital void. No records, nothing. This deep dive begins with exactly that, a listener's quest for truth about a family member who vanished, and the baffling, honestly frustrating journey through the archives of history, both digital and physical. Our mission today is to unpack a true story that really challenges our assumptions about what gets recorded, how information is preserved, and the surprising, maybe even alarming limitations of even the most comprehensive digital searches. We'll explore the incredible case of Roland Lyle Collins and three other men who disappeared on a duck hunting trip way back in 1951, a story that initially seemed to have vanished entirely from the digital record, even from advanced AI. It's a mystery that runs deeper than just the missing men. It's about, well, missing information itself. Okay, let's unpack this.
Yeah, and what's truly fascinating here isn't just the profound human mystery of the disappearance itself, the sheer unknowability of what actually happened on that river.
Yeah.
It's this deeper sort of meta-mystery of its startling absence from readily accessible digital records. We were presented with source material that began as a very modern-day inquiry, a human directly asking an advanced AI. And this immediately highlighted a really direct and compelling conflict. A human's unwavering certainty of a historical fact, a family's lived history passed down, pitted against an AI's initial, quite definitive, inability to find any supporting evidence at all. It raises a huge question for all of us in this information age. In a time when we think everything is at our fingertips, every detail, just a search query away, how can major newsworthy events just disappear from the digital record? And what does that imply for our understanding of history?
Exactly.
It forces us to reconsider the completeness, maybe even the reliability of our digital past.
Okay, so let's get into the start of this. Our journey began with a listener, driven by this deeply personal family mystery. They approached an advanced AI, Claude, looking for information about their fiancé's grandfather, Roland Lyle Collins. And the initial query was incredibly specific, which really speaks to the family's memory, right? They stated that Roland, along with three other men, James McCullough, Raymond Davis, and Joseph Cardo, went missing during a duck hunting trip in 1951. The location, the Missouri River, right along the Iowa-Nebraska border. The family remembered seeing newspaper articles about it, about the big search, but they didn't have the physical copies anymore. Fragile things, old papers. The listener even gave a specific date, saying family records pointed to October 21st, 1951, as maybe the day it happened.
It seems like a straightforward request, right?
Yeah.
Just verify this old event.
And Claude's response, well, it was swift, efficient, and frankly, astonishing in how definite it was. The AI reported back after doing what it called a comprehensive research spanning, get this, 416 sources in just 4 minutes and 21 seconds. 4 minutes.
Wow. And his conclusion was, the investigation found no historical evidence of Collins and three companions disappearing during a duck hunting trip on the Missouri River on October 21, 1951. It explicitly said, despite thorough searches of Iowa and Nebraska newspapers, official government records, and subsequent coverage, no documentation of this incident was discovered.
So not just couldn't find it easily, but no documentation discovered. Period.
Exactly. Zero. It wasn't just checking some sources. It claimed this broad, sweeping search across everything it thought relevant, digitized papers, government databases, the works. And that outcome, creates this powerful sense of digital omniscience. If the AI, after checking 400-plus sources in minutes, can't find it, well, surely it didn't happen, right? That's the implication.
It's a sobering thought, isn't it? 4 men missing. A hunting trip gone tragically wrong. A major incident like that, you'd think. It just seems impossible it would be wiped clean from the digital record. It's like a digital black hole, a place where information should be, but just isn't. And this is where it gets really interesting, because it challenges everything we assume about digital archives. How could an event big enough to involve 4 people, get regional attention, probably spark a huge search? How could it just be absent from such an extensive AI search? It doesn't compute with how we think information works now.
No, it really doesn't. And this initial outcome is profoundly puzzling on several levels. It raises critical questions about how much we rely on these digital records. On one hand, yeah, it showcases the sheer processing power. These things can analyze data unbelievably fast, which leads people to think if the AI can't find it, it doesn't exist. This kind of digital infallibility complex.
A digital mirage.
Exactly, a digital mirage. We see completeness just because the search was fast. But on the other hand, it immediately flags that crucial, often overlooked limitation, the input data. If the stuff isn't digitized in the first place, and tons of historical material isn't, or if it is digitized but not indexed right, or critically, if the OCR, the text recognition, failed.
OCR, can you explain that a bit?
Sure. Optical character recognition. It's the tech that turns scanned images of text, like from an old newspaper page, into searchable digital words. But think about old newspapers, faded ink, creases, weird fonts, maybe bleed through from the other side. The OCR software might just misread letters or words or turn a whole section into gibberish for the search engine.
Okay, so even if the image is there, the computer might not be able to read the text on it properly.
Precisely. And if the computer can't read it, the AI can't find it using keyword searches, even if it's technically there in a scan. So even the most powerful AI hits a wall. This discrepancy between a known family history, human memory, and the total lack of a digital footprint becomes the first really compelling layer here. It forces us to question how complete our digital archives really are and what biases or gaps they might hold.
But our listener, thankfully, they weren't put off by the AI's no evidence answer. They knew. They'd seen the articles. They remembered details. Roland was a pharmacist or druggist, as the census said, 3 other men, a hunting accident, the National Guard search, even a governor involved. Their response to the AI was just so human. Simply. That's wild. I have seen the newspaper articles about him. That certainty, that memory, it just wouldn't let go.
And that human insistence against the digital void, it's absolutely crucial here. It really underscores the value of firsthand knowledge, family history, even when it seems contradicted by huge data sets. And the AI, to its credit, actually showed some adaptability. It didn't just stick to its guns. It expressed curiosity about the discrepancy and offered several pretty smart hypotheses.
Like what?
Well, it suggested maybe the articles were in smaller local papers not fully digitized yet, which is super common.
Sure.
Or maybe there were variations in name spellings messing up the search. Or the date might be slightly off, maybe not the 21st exactly. And crucially, it mentioned that archives might just have gaps in digitization for that specific time period. That happens a lot.
Right. And then our listener dropped the crucial clue, the breadcrumb that changed everything. They replied, Sioux City Journal, October 22, 1951. It's the front page of that paper. Not just a guess, but a specific paper, specific date, and front page. That's laser focus for the search.
A total game changer. But here's another twist. Even with that incredibly precise information, the AI's direct attempts to access it through archives like newspapers.com still failed. It found like 10 results related to the search terms, but specifically said it failed to fetch the page URL.
So it knew something was there maybe, but couldn't actually get to it or read it.
Exactly. This points beyond just digitization gaps. Could be paywalls, website structures blocking automated access, maybe limitations in the AI's permissions. Or, going back to OCR, maybe the page was scanned, but the text wasn't recognized properly. So even a perfect reference doesn't guarantee digital access or searchability. It suggests countless historical events, even front-page news, might be effectively invisible to current AI, just sitting there in poorly indexed or inaccessible scans, waiting for a human.
And then the breakthrough, the human element triumphs. Our listener, with just incredible persistence, somehow managed to download the articles themselves. Maybe they used a library login or a different archive. We don't know exactly how, but they got them. And wow, were they right? The story wasn't just real as a front-page news. The AI's reaction was amazing, it almost sounded. Humbled. Wow, this is absolutely incredible. You were absolutely right. The story is real and was front-page news. I can clearly see both articles, and I'm genuinely amazed.
That's a pivotal moment. Suddenly, the void is filled with proof. The sources confirm multiple articles, validating the family's memory completely. There it was. 4 Sioux City hunters missing, right on the front page of the Sioux City Journal, Monday, October 22, 1951. And a follow-up article just 2 days later, Wednesday, October 24th. Searchers find duck decoy used by 4 missing hunters. This wasn't some minor back page item. It was a major ongoing story.
And that first article, October 22nd, once they could actually read it, it clarified the timeline too. It said the hunters had been missing since Saturday noon. So, while the article was published on the 22nd, the actual disappearance happened on Saturday, October 20th, 1951. A small detail, but important for getting the facts straight.
Right. And having access to these articles finally provided concrete details about the search and what little they found initially. That October 24th article mentions it was the 3rd day of Search Tuesday for the men missing since Saturday noon, confirming the multi-day effort. It also details the first find, that duck decoy believed to have belonged to the hunting party. And critically, it names names and agencies involved early on, like Captain C.J. Murphy of the Sioux City National Guard, explicitly in charge of the ground team. And it mentions the search involved 3 Iowa Air Guard planes, 2 boats, and a ground team of guardsmen.
Which totally backs up the listener's memory about the National Guard being involved.
Absolutely. Yeah. It proves this was a significant event, getting major coverage and resources right from the start. The family memory wasn't just accurate, it was remarkably detailed.
Okay, so now we have the proof, the articles. Let's get into the who and the what happened as far as the papers could tell. This story really starts to take shape now, and it's chilling.
Yeah, let's look at the men themselves. These weren't just statistics, they were real people, part of the Sioux City community. First, Roland Lyle Collins, the fiancé's grandfather. He was 34. Operated a drugstore on Phila Ave, lived on West 15th. The census called him a druggist, just like the family remembered. You imagine him, a local pharmacist.
A familiar face.
Exactly. Then James McCulloch, 32. He managed the M&M drugstore on West 7th. And interestingly, he was described as an experienced hunter, even mentioning experience in the Alaska wasteland. So, not a novice, lived on West 14th.
That experience makes it even more puzzling.
It does. Then there was Raymond Datis, 28. A salesman for Carpenter Paper Company, lived on Grandview Belvidere, building a career. And finally, Joseph Carta, 38, worked at the independent radiator repair shop on West 7th, also noted as an experienced hunter, lived on Dale St. Fred.
So you have these 4 men established, aged 28 to 38, with jobs, families, roots in the community. Their disappearance would have hit hard.
Absolutely.
Wait.
And Mrs. Collins, Roland's wife, she provided those crucial early details. The group left Sioux City really early, around 3 a.m. on Saturday, October 20th. Roland himself planned to come home by noon that day, but the others were going to stay until Saturday evening, which explains why they took 2 cars and a Jeep Raphael. Roland needed his own way back.
It sounds so normal. Planned.
Completely normal. And the hunting spot. The articles pinpointed between 7 and 8 miles from Obert, Nebraska, over in Dixon County. They were using a wooden flat-bottom boat, pretty standard then. Got it from the Joe Johnson farm, powered by a 10 HP Mercury motor. They'd set up a blind on a sandbar less than a mile from shore. Sounds like they knew the area, had a plan. Yeah. But we need to remember the Missouri River in 51. Before the big dams and channelization projects later on, it was a much wilder river. The Big Muddy, they called it. Powerful currents, constantly shifting channels, hidden snags, submerged trees that could tear a boat apart, and sandbars that could appear and disappear. A really dangerous place, especially in bad weather.
And the weather was bad. The last confirmed sighting came from 2 other hunters, Merlin Anderson and Levi Rasmussen, on another sandbar nearby. They saw the 4 men leave their blind, start across the river in the motorboat. Anderson said, the men seemed to be doing all right when he last saw them, heading downstream towards the Nebraska shore. But, and this is key, it was raining, a strong wind was blowing, and the river was described specifically as very rough. That paints a really ominous picture.
It does. And those conditions, that very rough river, they offer a plausible explanation for an accident. Right. A small boat, 4 men, gear, strong wind, waves. Could easily capsize or get swamped. But what elevates this beyond just a tragic accident is the shocking absence of evidence afterwards. Yes, they found Collins' car at Obert and the other car and the Jeep near the river on the Johnson farm. Confirmed they were there.
Right.
But after that, despite days and days of searching, the only other things recovered were that single duck decoy, 1 gas can, and 1 paddle.
That's it.
That's it. Think about it. The boat itself, gone. Their hunting guns, valuable items, gone. Their clothing, personal effects, wallets, anything, gone. And most importantly, the men themselves vanished. How does that happen? In a major river with a massive search, how do 4 men and all their gear just completely disappear, leaving almost literally nothing behind? And that's the core mystery.
And the search, it wasn't just a few guys in a boat. The articles make it clear this was an immediate and truly massive operation. It went on for over a week, relentless.
Oh, absolutely. The scale is critical to understanding how strange this is. This was a recognized emergency, pulling in resources from all over. You had Sheriff Sam Curry from Ponca, Nebraska, leading the ground search. Sheriff Ralph Clements from Harrington, Nebraska. The Dixon County Attorney, John Newman. Detective L.L. Peterson from Sioux City PD. Even someone from the Federal Conservation Department.
Multiple jurisdictions, multiple agents.
Exactly. Both sides of the river, local, county, state, even federal presence, they threw everything they had at it from the start.
And it went right to the top. Iowa's governor, William S. Beardsley, personally ordered 3 Iowa Air National Guard observation planes to help, starting on Tuesday the 23rd, the 3rd day. These weren't just doing casual flyovers. They covered 10 miles of river from 9 a.m. to 4:03 Euro p.m., specifically looking for any sign. That level of official response military aircraft in 1951, that tells you how serious this was.
It really does. And beyond the official agencies, the community response was just immense. The articles mention scores of searchers, 3 or 4 boatloads of volunteer workers, firemen, police officers from Sioux City and South Sioux City. People came from Dixon and Cedar counties in Nebraska, even a group from North Platte, Nebraska, led by a Paul Todd.
Wow.
And that private pilot, Harold Davison from Vermilion, South Dakota, making almost daily flights in his own plane. Just incredible dedication from ordinary people. Everyone wanted to find them.
And the methods they used were extensive too.
Yeah.
Dragging operations, pulling hooks along the river bottom, covering over a mile, specifically 1.5 miles below the blind, the most likely area. Multiple boats constantly on the water, private boats, a big 24-foot government boat. Ground teams scouring every inch of the riverbanks, islands, sandbars. Officials even put out alerts asking other hunters on the river to watch for floating objects. They really covered all the bases you could think of.
They did. Methodical searching by riverbank patrols and air observers, as one article put it. Yet despite all of that, over a week of intense, coordinated searching, the official conclusion was just bleak. No trace of the missing men has been found. Eventually, they had to scale back the active search to just patrolling, hoping against hope that the bodies might surface later. They never did. That level of effort, military planes, dozens of searchers, multiple boats, dragging operations, covering miles of river day after day and finding essentially nothing, it's genuinely baffling. It strongly suggests something very unusual happened out there.
So where does that leave us now? We have 4 men vanished. A massive search finds almost nothing tangible. And for decades, the digital record, the AI search, initially showed zero trace of this front-page story. The core anomaly, as the listener stressed, is that complete absence of physical evidence beyond those few tiny items. No bodies, no clothing, no guns, nothing but a duck decoy, a gas can, and a paddle. That silence is deafening.
It really is. And this is where it defies easy explanation. The listener's fiancé had noted that 1951 saw big storms and floods on the Missouri. Now, normally, even in floods, bodies in drowning cases do eventually surface. Decomposition, current, snags. Something usually brings them up or washes them ashore, often within days or weeks.
You'd expect that, yeah.
But for these 4 men, Collins, McCulloch, Davis, Carta, absolutely nothing, ever. And especially with 4 people, you'd expect some debris, clothing fragments, gear, something. The utter void is statistically improbable. It's deeply anomalous.
And that parallel the fiancé drew to missing 411 cases. It is striking, isn't it?
It really is.
Experienced outdoorsmen, established community members, massive search effort, and then just complete lack of physical evidence. No bodies, no gear, no trace. This case fits that unsettling pattern perfectly. It echoes other strange disappearances.
It does. And then you add that other layer of mystery, the initial failure of the digital search. The fact that a major multi-day front-page news story from a prominent regional paper was completely invisible to an advanced AI. That's not just a technical glitch. It's a powerful statement about the limitations, the potential blind spots in our digital historical record. It points to those systematic gaps in preservation, the failures in OCR or indexing we talked about.
That digital mirage.
Exactly. The illusion of completeness. It implies that countless other historical events, maybe less dramatic, maybe just as significant, could be lurking in physical archives, completely inaccessible to our current digital tools, hidden in plain sight. This case, honestly, it defies explanation on multiple levels. 4 experienced men, their boat, their gear. They don't just vanish without a trace from a busy river during a massive week-long search involving aircraft and scores of people. It forces you to confront the limits of what we know and what might remain unknowable.
So our deep dive into the disappearance of Roland Lyle Collins and his 3 companions, it started with this really frustrating digital dead end, right? An AI saying no evidence for something that was absolutely real front-page news. But through persistence, through that human connection to the actual physical articles, we uncovered this profound, unsettling mystery. A huge search, established people, and just an almost complete lack of any trace.
Yeah, it's a really stark reminder, isn't it? That even now, in our hyper-connected, supposedly data-rich world, vital pieces of history can stay stubbornly hidden. It challenges our whole idea of what found information even means. It really forces us to appreciate the human element, memory, family stories, sheer determination, especially when the digital paths just fail, when the algorithms come up empty.
So what does this all mean for you listening right now? The story of the vanishing hunters of the Missouri River isn't just some cold case from 1951. It's about those unseen gaps in our collective memory, the very real limitations of the vast digital libraries we rely on constantly now. And it leaves you with that unsettling thought that some mysteries, despite all our efforts, despite our best tech, might just be destined to remain unsolved, waiting for someone to stumble upon them, one physical article, one persistent memory at a time. It really challenges you to think about the completeness of the digital world we navigate every day. What stands out to you?